What's good, PHNX Cardinals family? Bo Brack, Johnny Venerable, looking a little disgruntled already. I mean, it's a Monday. What's up, Chris? What's up, Anthony? What's up, Chase and Dylan in the chat already? Lighting it up. Excited to be with you, and I think we're excited to be with you, of course. Johnny, what's going on, my man?
Yeah, I turned my hat backwards for the segment because this is serious. Everybody here, 32 and counting and growing, everybody here gets a voice on this podcast. This podcast is driven by all of you, which means no topic is left uncovered. Nobody gets dismissed for their opinion on something, right? So when I see people freak out on social media for at least suggesting that Jonathan Taylor could be a fit for the Arizona Cardinals, everybody's freaking out, right? Like this season's a waste. They would never do that. We're going to have this conversation whether people like it or not, right? Because it's out of respect for the process, right? And again, I tweeted it out. Our mentions, people want to talk about Jonathan Taylor. So I want to spend 5 minutes here, Bo Brock, opening the show with you, my co-host, having an honest conversation about Jonathan Taylor. That doesn't mean at the end of the show, PHNX Cardinals is going to be the ambassador. Let's trade 5 first-round picks for Jonathan Taylor. But I think it's disrespectful to our audience to completely dismiss it. So let's, two grown adult men here, sit back. I've got my pumpkin porter ready to go.
Whoa.
Brought to you by our friends at Four Peaks. It's the last one I have. I cracked it open out of my reserves to talk about JT to AZ. So I'm going to let you start. The floor is yours as to your opinion on Jonathan Taylor and his availability to potentially Arizona.
Well, let me first apologize that the Twitter mob came after this show. How dare we talk about the biggest trending story in the NFL? How dare we that the 31 other teams and their fan bases respectfully are going to at least inquire to their reporters, insiders, hey, does my team have interest in it? How dare we speculate? How dare we have that conversation? And, to piggyback on that, people are putting too many things as far as what are put on the Twitter streets and put in show previews and teases, as we call them here in the biz, not to kind of take you too far behind the velvet rope, but they're putting the tweets too much on a pedestal. Okay. Yeah. Like we could very much say, should they inquire about Jonathan Taylor? No, idiot. They're rebuilding. No.
Shut up, idiot. Get out of here, idiot.
But we're not just going to completely just omit it from the show. It's one of the biggest topics going on right now in the NFL, and we're going to cover that just like we covered everything regarding this team. This is the definitive Arizona Cardinals podcast. You don't want to miss out on anything we're going to be breaking down. So, Jonathan Taylor, it's been a saga. It's a bit been dramatic in Indy. That's been just a hot fire mess as far as the dumpster goes in Indy since, they fired Frank Reich back in the season last year. They brought in Jeff Saturday off the streets to come in and be their interim coach. And then they have one of the most wild, chaotic coaching searches we've ever seen. And we're saying that from Arizona. And then they land on, I think, a pretty solid candidate in Shane Steichen. And he's pretty well equipped to take on a young quarterback like Anthony Richardson. So some positives and still, a ton of negatives as far as Indy. And one of those is, their franchise running back in a contract year removed from 1,800 yards rushing on the ground, just being a fantasy football darling, kind of going through an ankle injury last year. He there's reports he wants out of Indy, and he's rarely seen as far as training camp and the preseason goes. And then multiple reports today, Johnny, say that Jonathan Taylor has been given permission by the Indianapolis Colts to seek a trade.
Get out, right?
That obviously comes with what Indy would accept as fair trade. They're not just going to give Jonathan Taylor away, even if it's like Jonathan Taylor and his representation go, oh, hey, all 31 other teams are interested in Jonathan Taylor's services. That's no shock to anybody, right?
The Cardinals would welcome him onto their team.
Right.
Like people who are like, they don't want him. Of course they would want him. If he was available to them, you could have him. They would take him, and he would immediately become one of their best offensive players. Go ahead, Bo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm just setting it up, and then let's have the conversation. It probably not going to be a long one, because the way I view it, Jonathan Taylor would take draft capital to acquire. You would think a guy at his status, at his age, probably, and especially at a running back, playing the running back position, you wouldn't want to utilize a first round pick on a running back. I don't view Monty Austinford as one of those guys as using it even in the first round on a running back. Why would he trade that asset for a running back? but it's going to take, draft capital. And then it's also going to take a large multi-year extension with a lot of guaranteed dollars that aren't being spent on the running back position. And look, if Jonathan Taylor was if he was locked up and he was kind of on a Christian McCaffrey type deal,
sure,
right? And the Arizona Cardinals were in a similar situation as the San Francisco 49ers last year. I'd say go crazy, go for it. But right now, the Arizona Cardinals are at the beginning of a rebuild. They're not in the middle of it. They're not on their way. They're in the very beginning of a rebuild, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the only way it would make sense is, hey, quarterback country, who gives a shit? They're just going to run the football 40 times a game with James Conner and Jonathan
they might
Taylor.
Do that.
And yeah,
they might do that with Keontae Ingram and
exactly.
James Conner. But no, your points are all valid. And I feel like most of the people that are non-pro this move or not pro Jonathan Taylor to Arizona are bringing up the points that my co-host is making. And I think that that's the right mindset. However, I think it's ridiculous to dismiss the fact that I pointed out that Jonathan Gannon was there when JT was drafted in Indianapolis. Who did they sign when they needed a backup to James Conner? Now, albeit to a modest contract. Oh, the starter in Indianapolis in 2020, that was Marlon Mack. I love Marlon Mack in Indianapolis. We had to get him here, right? He was going to be RB2 here, and then he blew out his Achilles, and that was really unfortunate. And so they have a glaring opening here. But to your point, Bo, it would be beyond this year. It would be draft capital, compensation. But for everybody who's like, well, the Cardinals aren't going to build that way, I want to believe that. You don't know that, though. I pointed this out on Twitter. The three people that are running this franchise and the offense in particular, let's put Nick Rallis off to the side for a second. Monty Ossenford came from an organization in New England that used an early pick on Sony Michel, and then came from a place in Tennessee, which their entire culture is built around Derrick Henry, who went in the second round, who got paid a premium. Well, what about Drew Petzing? I don't know. They had more money invested in their backfield than any other team in the NFL, between Nick Chubb, who was a top 40 pick, Kareem Hunt, who got a nice contract, right? That's this offense. They're trying to emulate that. And James Conner is probably a year away from not being with this team anymore. He's almost 30 years old. It's too much guaranteed money. I think we all can assume this backfield, what it looks like this year, is not going to look like this in 2024. And then lastly, Jonathan Gannon at least was in Indianapolis and Philadelphia, both run-dominant teams. Miles Sanders, the Eagles just traded for DeAndre Swift, right? Of course, JT was there in Indianapolis. Like the DNA of this team, of this culture, is running the football. Now, should they have gone out and gotten a Tank Bigsby in the third round, or should they invested a top 100 pick? That's what they're probably going to do. But I think, first of all, the first round pick request is complete BS, because if you remember, once upon a time, this franchise, this one, asked for a first round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, and then they cut his ass after June 1st. Okay, so put that away for a second.
That's not bring that up.
If they are dead set on dealing him, it comes down to, okay, the Cardinals have 11 picks, right? They have another back that could return. They've got players that were not drafted by this regime. They could jet set. Isaiah Simmons or Rondell Moore. You could open up the depth chart and just say, what do you want? What are you interested in? They've got 3 third-rounders. He's 24 years old. This is the last point I'm going to make. It's the exact same age. The Buffalo Bills traded Marshawn Lynch to Seattle when everybody thought Seattle was effing terrible. What's Seattle doing? Mid-season, they got Marshawn Lynch. It changed the trajectory of the franchise. I'm not saying I would make the move, but to not even have a conversation about it is a joke. He had 1,800 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, and 18 touchdowns as a 22-year-old. He was a generational type back. If you get him in Arizona for a mid-round pick, it's not my money. I don't care about the money, right? It's going to be – look at the roster implications for this team and the cap money that they're going to have. Would you rather spend, I don't know, 10 to 12 million on Jonathan Taylor per year? Go look at the free agency pool next spring, right? There's not too many people I would rather pay than Jonathan Taylor. This team's going to have $100 million in cap space. Everybody just needs to take a deep breath and say, it's to just completely dismiss it is disrespectful. It's just absolutely disrespectful. I know everybody's dead set on Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., me included with the latter, but he's 24. He's an ascending player, hopefully, if he's healthy. So
that's a question mark too. Yeah, it's a question mark too. I mean, coming off, it wasn't like he had a wrist injury or it was was something upper body. I mean, it was his ankle, and that's concerning. And anytime you have a season like he did, like obviously it's a positive, and you see the playmaking, 1,800 yards, close to 400 yards receiving. Was it 20 touchdowns? Unbelievable year in 2021. But that mileage, I mean, look at David Johnson. It was it. It was one and done. Like the shelf life of a NFL running back is so short. So brings me my point. Like, I think with the 11 picks, 6 in the top 3 rounds coming up, your own picks, Texans, go find the next Jonathan Taylor. I know that's easier said than done, but as far as the running back position goes, the hit rate is a lot higher than, say, a quarterback or even wide receivers. Like, you can find a playmaker, and it's a pretty deep class.
Yeah.
Like, go get a guy, you get him for 4 years on the cheap, and you get pretty close. You can find playmaking pretty damn close. Hell, I mean, like the Colts, I think they really liked Taylor as a prospect, but they had Mac in-house. Like, that's just good. Franchises do that. Second, third rounds, those are the money rounds. Even fourth rounds, you can find them undrafted. You don't have to spend a lot of money or in a lot of high draft picks or any draft pick capital for that matter in a trade to go out there and really bolster your running back room.
The draft pick to me is irrelevant because it's not going to be an early pick. It would be a mid to late round pick. Maybe you're throwing a player. It's all about the money you would have to commit. And anybody who wants to make that argument, I'm ready to listen to that. That's the most legitimate rationale argument to the counterpoint of why you should trade for him. You cannot pay running backs big money, but typically you're having those conversations when guys are 27, 28 years old, right? It's that third contract potentially. Typically, I mean, he's played 3 NFL seasons. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a semi-decent chance, like, you're going to get at least 3 more seasons of him. Is that worth a 2024 third rounder if he's a top 5 back in the NFL? All I know is I watched this team in a preseason game against the Denver Broncos, and they didn't have James Conner and Keontae Ingram. They couldn't run for shit between the tackles. Everybody was missing holes, right? James Conner's 28. Keontae Ingram's unproven, right? This offense is going, if this was Cliff Kingsbury, wouldn't even be a conversation worth having. I agree with that. But the fact that this offense is so run dominant and run, I don't even know how to say it. Like, you're so dependent on a running back to be successful. And the best one, or potentially one of the best ones in the NFL, is available, and you could get him on a discount. Think about what the Colts paid for it and what you potentially would get. And he's a year removed from 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns. It's just like, look at what Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb did in Cleveland, and think about that with Kyler Murray's ability and Paris Johnson Jr. You've got 2 top 10 picks next year. You could go get Joe Alt, who's 6'10", 7 foot from Notre Dame, and you could become a bully in your own.
How tall is he? He's playing in the post in the NBA. Did you say he's 7 feet? My God,
he's 6'8". I looked up his draft profile earlier today, but I don't know. It's worth having. And I want to be respectful to all the people who wanted to have the conversation. So we've had the conversation. Would I do it tomorrow? Probably not. But I think that you connect the dots with this team, and there are some topics of conversation that are worth having.
I mean, this is why we have the most impressive viewers, listeners of any podcast, any NFL fan community of all. I mean, Jalen Blair is saying, I'd rather go out there and get Rocket Sanders from Arkansas. We've got our guy in the chat, Nick. He agrees with me. You got 2 running backs from Michigan alone. It's a tasty crop of running backs. We're going to hit it every Tuesday during the regular season. We are going to preview in our college football preview show. Some of these backs. I mean, Trayvon Henderson from Ohio State, continue to pluck talent from Columbus, please. You got Rocket Sanders, Arkansas, Braylon Allen from Wisconsin, another just like Jonathan Taylor, another guy poised to start at the NFL level, just like, Melvin Gordon. And like, I think Gordon is one of the cautionary tales, like so many. It's like you get that mileage up, and it seems like then the production just falls off a cliff. That's why I'm hesitant to give up anything of value and then sink guaranteed dollars. I would just much rather this team and see what Monty Ossenfort and his scouting department are made of this upcoming draft. Right. Find the running back of the future, because what does it do? I mean, in the interim, like, what is it? You add Jonathan Taylor to this roster going into 2023.
I think you become a hell of a lot more fun this year.
Oh, you become fun, but is it people? I mean,
I saw a comment earlier. This ignites the fan base. People, you start selling his jersey. People get fired up. You
just think
have
that's. I think that's just a move you don't. Smart franchises don't make that move. They don't do it in the name of fun. And like, I'm all for fun. Absolutely.
If they, no.
If they did it,
fun. We all know you hate
I'm
fun.
on an emergency podcast tomorrow, and I'm screaming the praises of Monty Ossenfort, and I'm excited. And
so
whatever jersey Taylor gets.
Fraudulent? Is that what you're telling us? No, I agree with you. Listen, would it change the trajectory of this franchise for this year? Probably not. But I think you start to build the foundation of what the Cardinals maybe want to be, and that's a bully team that wants to run the football. And like, I love the draft, right? This franchise has drafted hundreds of backs, and about 99 out of 100, save for David Johnson, have not been very good. Yeah. Even teams like Kansas City take a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's a bust, right? Like, I think we need to dispel the notion that, well, if they take it back, they're going to be productive no matter what. I have immense faith in this organization now and how they draft, given this rookie class. But I mean, I also think it would speak to, if what Monty Ossenfort has done this offseason with Dave Sears, it would speak to how much they think of Jonathan Taylor. If they went out and did something like this, they would view Jonathan Taylor, like Ossenfort probably had like a top 3 grade on Jonathan Taylor. He was in a division with Jonathan Taylor, so he would know him better than anybody else. So they worked out 3 or 4 running backs and use their precious top 30 draft visits. So what that means is you only get 30 draft visits after the combine, where you can have one-on-one time with a player. Mm-hmm. And typically those are the players that you're going to draft or you're going to target, right? The Cardinals did Tank Bigsby. They did a couple other guys. They were sniffing around backs this draft, and they didn't add anybody. And everybody, including myself, thought, well, they're going to ask James Conner to take a pay cut. No way they pay James Conner $10 million this year in a rebuild year. They're paying James Conner $10 million. They didn't draft it back. I don't think I get it. They're into premium positions. Number one, I don't even know how much it would cost to extend Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor might take a fair market deal at this point. Somebody said $14 million. We'll see. Like, we'll see about that.
How much of an upgrade is Jonathan Taylor over James Conner?
Stop. Don't do that.
Look, I mean, just look at the numbers.
Oh my God. That's a little disrespect. I love James Conner. Let's not do that.
Let's not also forget, the rigors of the NFL and the toll it takes on the running back position.
Okay. Do I need to pull up some stats here?
I got them right in front of me. It's funny you say that.
Pull them up.
Yeah. 13 games, James Conner. He had 1,082 yards from scrimmage with, I believe, 8 total touchdowns, right? Okay. When you look over at Jonathan Taylor, 11 games, he had 1,004 scrimmage yards, and he had 4 total touchdowns. As far as toting the football, 4.5 yards per carry for Taylor, 4.3 for James Conner. So you're giving up draft capital and future guaranteed dollars for a guy that's, last year.
Well, you even said it's you got Jeff Saturday and like a bunch of janitors
Cliff Kingsbury
coaching the Colts last year, and it's like Nick Foles is his quarterback, poor guy, and he's like, good hell. I mean, I love James Conner. James Conner was hurt last year. I mean, and I get it. It was Cliff Kingsbury's, cliche offense, but I mean, let's be real here. One of these two guys was number 2 in AP MVP voting, and that was Jonathan Taylor in 2021. 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns. Like, is that the norm? No, that's probably an outlier year, but do you think
he's finding the end, as far as finding the end zone, and James Conner had 18 touchdowns that season too.
But this offense
over the last 2 seasons, James Conner has 26 total touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor has, I believe, 22? I mean, he's been more productive, less drama. You know what? I'm completely out on Taylor. Take me out of this conversation. It's over. They need to take their medicine. They're going to roll with James Conner. They're going to rack up. They're going to rack up his mileage.
They're starting Slappy Doo, Scott's Tots. And
James Conner is my old trusty 1997 Toyota Camry. I'm racking up the mileage this season, and then I'm going to get that new in the draft. I can't wait.
Cool. Bo Brack has hitched his wagon to 2 players this year that have historic injury concerns in Colt McCoy and James Conner. We'll be sitting here in mid-October, and you've got practice squad level players trying to run the football and missing blitz pickups for Kyler Murray, the week he's back and they're not hitting the hole and it's third and long, it's just like, oh, maybe we should have invested in a back.
Thank you, Agent 47. They're not Jonathan Taylor away from
after this season. Can he not play at 25? I'm confused by that.
Unbelievable.
It's good stuff. Thank you for
we shouldn't have had that conversation according to the Twitter street.
Cancel this program. We will never speak on trades involving running backs again. I'm so sorry.
Somehow I was forced into a corner to take James Conner over Jonathan Taylor. Feel ill, but scrappy dude. That's right.
I'll suit up. It'll be week 12, and Kyler Murray's running for his life, trying to make plays, and they dump it off to this new player.
Get inside the pads, Johnny.
Number 43 is 5'6" out there. It's me and Deuce Vaughn out there for the Arizona Cardinals. That's the equivalent. I just get lit the hell up, and they're just like, oh man.
You look like Zeke on the final play of the Cowboys season last year. He's the center on the play.
Jonathan Taylor just scored his 5th touchdown of the game. As a member of the Miami Dolphins or the Chicago Bears. And it's like, oh, yeah, we probably could have used him. Whatever. That's fine. Okay, we'll talk about Cardinal football here in a second. But first, I don't know if you guys know this or not. College football, it's on its way back, and it's back this weekend. We've waited for it. Our time is now. It has finally arrived. I'm so fired up. And what comes with college football? Dabbling on some sports books. How about this from our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook? New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any college football bet. I'm not going to say our boy Caleb Williams is playing this weekend, but Caleb Williams, not sure if you've heard of him, plays San Jose State. So, pray for them and what Caleb Williams is potentially going to do. I've got a DraftKings pick of the week, Bo Brock, by the way. I still need to make it because the game kicks off in 7 minutes. But right now, my DraftKings pick of the week, the Baltimore Ravens have won 24 straight preseason games. They are a 1-point favorite against our Washington Commanders. We get week 1. No Lamar Jackson. I will suck it up. I'll swallow the 1 point, the pick 'em, and I will take the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Commanders tonight on the road. What do you think about that?
I love it. How's Sam Howell going to perform? How's our meaningless game king going to go? Does this one actually mean something with the Ravens coming in, winning 24 in a row?
I don't know, but I feel like, is this just free money? Am I just like naive not to think they're going to win again? I know they have to lose eventually, but if I'm going to wager a loss for the Baltimore Ravens in the preseason, it would have to be against the team like we saw last week, the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not going to be for dirt Sam Howell and company. Like I feel pretty good. Baltimore with their coaching staff is going to take care of business. Plus, Eric Bieniemy revenge game, but not so much because I think Baltimore is going to want to show Eric Bieniemy something. But I want to show you something. It's a call to action. Kick off the season with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use that promo code. You guessed it, PHNX. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any college football bet, only at DraftKings with the promo code PHNX.
Let's talk about Wink. It's taken over the seltzer game. Of course, seltzers are on fire right now, but instead of alcohol, instead of grandpa's old cough medicine, it's THC. You can dabble in that as well. How high are you going to get is drinking a Wink? Just a Wink. They're not going to mess around and put you on your backside. Summer's not a spectator sport, so grab an ice cold Wink and go play. It's only available in select states, including Arizona, so go check it out for yourself. THC to CBD balance, that's exactly what you're looking for. It's that golden ratio. They're going to set you up real nice. It's balanced. It's light. Course, social. It's going to get you work in the room. You're going to enjoy yourself, have a great time, and just having a nice, refreshing, flavored Wink seltzer. Also, check out Countdown. Get ready for liftoff with Countdown. It's their sister product as well. They got 2.5 milligram and 5 milligram cans. You can find Wink right here in AZ. Look for Wink at Sunday Goods dispensaries and then Valley and Botanica dispensary in Tucson. Go to drinkwink.com. It's the fastest way to find where you can buy their products. Drink, D-R-I-N-K, Wink, W-Y-N-K.com.
I'm giving a wink and a thumbs up to the super chat from friend of the program, Z Professor, $10. So generous. Thank you so much, Z Professor. I'd love to see JT, but we'd have to pay him too much. Totally justifiable. It doesn't make sense because Hunt is available. If Hunt was off the board, I'd be willing to send a third and a fifth and test the waters. Well, they and a bunch of other teams, I guess, are out on Hunt. Like, Hunt doesn't have a team, and Jonathan Taylor would obviously be more expensive, but the upside is immense. Like Jonathan Taylor's 24, Kareem Hunt's almost 30 years old. Kareem Hunt's best football very much behind him. And then there's, concerns about how he'd fit in the locker room. Like Jonathan Taylor, by all accounts, Brack, say what you want about him, like great human being. And I think is the kind of player they want to have. Again, it goes back to our original point. They would want Jonathan Taylor on the team, but what would they have to part with? I think to Z Professor's point, the money is the root cause of it. If it wasn't the money, if he was locked in, he's making like $7.5 million for the next 2 years. Like I think it becomes that much more reasonable to suggest.
Yeah, I'd actually rather take that 3rd round pick. I think the next significant move at running back for the Cardinals is playing on Saturdays this fall.
I can't wait till we have a draft party next year, and it's Friday night, and it's day 2, and the Cardinals have 3 threes, by the way. They've got theirs, Houston, and Tennessee's, and all that's left of the running back board is just like Panera Bread University, and you're going to have to talk yourself into some scrub. And we're going to be sitting there and saying, well, you might have been able to draft. We don't have James. They cut James Conner, right? Keontae Ingram had a man. Yeah, we don't know. And then it's just like, man, I really got to talk myself into this undersized back as the featured back. Or you could have Jonathan Taylor.
Why are you taking out the people that came at you on Twitter on me?
Nobody came out.
Why do you want me? Why are you jumping the DeLorean, gun it to 88, and then taking a shit on my draft party?
I feel like I have to defend the people who want to have this conversation. I'm not going to let them be disrespected. I want to
not disrespectful to say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. Like this team's rebuilding. They're just not in a spot.
You don't like 24-year-olds? Is a 24-year-old too much for a team that's rebuilding? I don't think. He's not 34. He's not a 30-year-old defensive tackle. He's a 24-year-old back. He's
a year away from DiCaprio dumping him. It's not a long time. Once he hits 25, he's over the hill.
I just am so sick of this team being soft in between the tackles and can't muscle people around.
I'm encouraged by the running back room right now.
No. I'm encouraged by the offensive line, but projecting this run game for the
James Conner looked really solid.
Do you think James Conner's on this team next year?
No, but my point is, but it doesn't mean you got to work out a deal with Jonathan Taylor.
I said that would be the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. At least Conner is under contract. There's more of a possibility than Taylor at this point.
Yeah. Listen, it's not my hill to die on, but I want to be able to talk about it. And we've talked about it.
You're just going a little too hard.
No, I'm not. I'm not going hard enough now that you're saying that. I like this coming from earlier, and then we're going to get into Isaiah Simmons here in a second. Free matter for the blind. At least Johnny doesn't have to worry about Simmons trying to tackle him now. How about that? Ooh, like that comment there. That's a play on the fact that Isaiah Simmons couldn't tackle anybody Saturday night, Bo. If you need me to help you connect.
I think coverage was the biggest issue with Isaiah Simmons, right?
Well, in the play on the goal line that he missed. Jonathan Taylor probably makes that tackle. All right, we can transition.
We've gone too far, folks.
We can transition now. Let's talk about actual Cardinal news that is likely to happen. So Jonathan Gannon met with my friend Brack and the rest of the Arizona Cardinal media today before jet setting tomorrow to Minnesota to have joint practices with the Vikings and company. And Bo, it was asked. What's going on with Isaiah Simmons?
You know what that was? You have an argument with your wife, and you're like, so-and-so's husband does this. That's what you just did to me on Jonathan Taylor.
Across the street makes the bed too. He knows how to fold the laundry.
Right?
Did you see him?
He can fold a fitted sheet.
Jonathan Taylor can make that tackle at the goal line, Bo. Jonathan Taylor doesn't miss the cutback. Corey Clement. No, he doesn't. He does not.
What would the fan base? He would have earned some cred if he'd lit up Steve Bichelle.
He did the opposite of that, though.
Yeah, he didn't do like Sean Taylor in the Pro Bowl to Brian Mormon, the punter, in a meaningless game, just completely just destroy him. Look, it's interesting because when we talked to JG today, there wasn't a whole lot of negatives. It wasn't as negative as you would have thought from a 38-10 loss, regardless if it's the preseason. Isaiah Simmons came up, and the one question he was asked directly about Isaiah Simmons, and this was how he broke down Simmons' performance on Saturday night. This was Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, I think he feels comfortable with what he's doing. He's got some things he's got to clean up, but I like where he's going right now.
So pretty short, right? Not giving us too much. You know, he feels comfortable, right? As far as he needs to clean some things up. Yes, I think everybody agrees with that. And then there was a question about effort where I felt like maybe I wasn't the reporter that asked the question, but you know, I think that's Isaiah Simmons. When you watch that one play we just discussed, that's probably what was kind of where this was aimed. And this was the answer that you got from JG.
That's one of the things that I look for. You know, are we running and we hitting? And I thought the energy was good. What we have to get cleaned up, I think the difference in that ball game was the details of how we operated by certain plays, certain calls, certain techniques, and that really was the difference in the game.
So, you know, I think that when he talks technique and you can apply it to Simmons losing leverage, especially when he's in man and he's trying to cover wide receivers, which is we've seen in his career, it just doesn't end up well. It doesn't end up well for a lot of safeties, right? So I think that he's throwing Simmons in the entire group of the defensive players of the Arizona Cardinals outside of probably the ones.
He's protecting his player, and he should. And that's how he gets respect from everybody in the locker room, including Isaiah Simmons. And hopefully, as Chase has changed his avatar to be Isaiah Simmons, whiffing, making a business decision, which is just chef's kiss. I love that so much. Listen, I don't have to come up and bury Isaiah Simmons on this show because I think the fan base buried Isaiah Simmons Saturday night. And I think Jonathan Gannon is going to attempt to rebuild Isaiah Simmons' value. We've talked about it off air. We've talked about it on air. It's like Isaiah Simmons is not worth very much right now in the open market. We talked about what could you get for him, right? We're having that conversation every day on Twitter. No one wants to trade for Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons' best course of action, if he wants to be able to have a lengthy NFL career, forget with the Cardinals, but with whomever, he needs to listen to Jonathan Gannon, who's a DB safety savant, and go out and execute. And oh, by the way, he's playing with two great safeties in Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker, who are not as big and not as fast as Isaiah Simmons, but have accomplished a hell of a lot more. It's just, you're in the backfield now. You've got to pick your position. You're cherry picking as a free safety. They're letting you do what you want to do. You can't have performances like that. That's embarrassing. And I'm sure he was embarrassed watching the film session with his teammates, and he should, because again, I know he's not on his second contract. He's a top 10 player paid on this roster right now. He's a top 10 pick on this roster right now. He's a starter. And he plays in a secondary with a couple dogs, and he's out there in the second quarter, you know, not looking great and not giving effort. It's one thing to get cooked by Travis Kelce week 1 last year. It's just like, what can you do? And there were a lot of fans giving him the benefit of the doubt when that happened, and kudos to those people. Like, you can't defend that. You can't defend what we saw Saturday night in the second quarter. And Jonathan Gannon is doing his best to defend his player because it's what's in the best interest of the team. I'm not going to sit here and say though, like that's not embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, a lack of effort. I mean, pulling up like that, especially when a guy's going into the end zone, and you can at least put, you know, a body on him. I think that absolutely, it's right there for people. It's a smoking gun in a sense, right? But there are things at play, and I don't want to sit here and be an excuse maker for Isaiah Simmons.
You very much
look. This is a guy that is making a position change. That early in that game, he was in the true position that he's going to play for this team, you know, in the regular season, and you hope that it, you know, no injuries impact his ability to play, you know, the role that he'd asked to play, and that the coaching staff obliged, and that he's been working on through training camp. But Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Isaiah Simmons, when that trio was on the field, they forced 2 punts for the Kansas City Chiefs. Then Budda Baker, his night was over after those 2 series. And then, you know, I think it was JT and it was Isaiah Simmons manning the safety spots, and you'd see Isaiah kind of moving to the slot. He was one-on-one with wide receivers, and that looked bad. It looked just like last year, right? So I think that there are things at play as far as in preseason ball, especially defensively, that are more than just like, hey, we need to win this play right now. It's an evaluation. And I think that this coaching staff was trying to learn a lot about it as far as his players go. But also, I think Isaiah Simmons wasn't necessarily in a position that they want to put him in come the regular season. Like, he's going to be out there with his dogs, JT and Budda, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be, you know, pretty much the guys that are tasked with covering. and he's going to play that center field role. That's his role, center field, deep center field for this defense.
Hooray. Eddie in the chat, Isaiah Simmons is doo-doo juice. I'm done. Ben Cork, he needs to play Saturday and play well. I think it would be humbling for Simmons to play in the third preseason game when the rest of his teammates are likely sitting. Agent 47, if he didn't show up this week, cut him. Simple as that. We need to move on. Kyler Wren, Simmons' best position is bench. Again, he's lost the benefit of the doubt with, I think, a lot of the supporters he had, because I think the big caveat, the asterisk, was Vance Joseph, Steve Keim, out of position, right? Well, you're playing your position now. It's just like, can you cover? Can you cover second and third team receivers for Kansas City when they're known not to have a great receiving core? I mean, like, why does Keitrell Clark look like a better NFL player right now than Isaiah Simmons? And I know it's not apples to oranges, but like, if he can't tackle at the line of scrimmage, he couldn't fill as an inside linebacker, and he can't cover one-on-one. Like what you're describing, like that's the only thing he can do is he can play center field. Like NFL teams are not going to value that on the open market. He's not going to get some big, robust contract. Like,
yeah, but we know that. We know that. I mean, I think what they're trying to do is figure out a way to
just use him for this year. I agree with
where
that.
he fits, and where he can fit this year, and where he can, instead of becoming the jack of all trades, master of none, find a spot he can master. And
can I ask you a question?
If it's a role that is relatively insignificant, even if it's a role that's viewed, on the NFL scale, insignificant, center field safety, if a team's looking for a guy to fill that, like at least they know, hey, we can get Isaiah Simmons. To where now they're like, hey, we get Isaiah Simmons, but we don't know where he fits. And look, this is the second game under the new coaching staff. Like there has to be a little patience. I mean, the cut him, bench him. That's like, I'm all for getting after a guy for a lack of effort, and I agree with you to that extent. But as far as like, hey, this guy is a lost cause, I disagree with that, because I think we saw some good things in the red and white, and I definitely saw some good things when he was working with the first team defense at full strength.
So I asked you in the spring if you considered Isaiah Simmons a bust or trending toward a bust. Would you like to rehash that and amend your?
I mean, I think
take on that.
Well, I mean, what's your definition of bust?
I think I said at the time there are varying levels of bust.
Okay.
There's Ndici bust. There's Matt Leinart bust. There's obviously Josh Rosen bust. But then there's busts that don't get their fifth-year option picked up and are not projected to make big money contracts when they're set into the wild and never live up to their expectation.
Okay.
That's a bust to me.
All right. Your tiers are Leinart and Rosen, right? Those are the top, right? Those are quarterbacks.
And Kimdichie. Put Kimdichie.
Well, Kimdichie was 29th overall. I think that's tough. I mean, I agree. He didn't play well. He busted, whatever. But yeah, there's Rosen, there's Leinart, there's huge expectations from a franchise to put on their shoulders, and they fall as short as you possibly can and implode. And then you've got like you've got the Kimdichies and stuff. And I think that's somewhere. I think Isaiah is somewhere in the middle. I mean, this is a guy that if you look at statistically, he's fine. He went over 100 tackles. He's had a couple sacks, had a couple picks. He's had a couple game-changing plays. He just never consistently did it. I just don't think. I think he showed that he could play at the NFL level, but as far as being consistent impact maker, like, yeah, he busted as far as he's not a star.
Right. He busted.
Okay.
He busted for the expectations that were set coming out of Clemson. He is much closer to somebody like, oh man, who is the kid that played safety for USC? Is Taylor something? Taylor Mays. He's much closer like Taylor Mays than he is Derwin James.
Way better player than Taylor Mays.
Okay. Taylor Mays, better value, though. Day 3 pick.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
It's
not Isaiah Simmons' fault that Steve Keim having the 8th overall pick.
He was going to Jacksonville if the Cardinals didn't take him 9th overall, and C.J. Henderson would have been a Cardinal, or Derek Brown would have been a Cardinal. Unfortunately, Tristan Wirfs or CeeDee Lamb is not a Cardinal. Okay, so I've ripped on Isaiah enough today and this weekend, but I'm asking for some accountability. That's all. Just be accountable.
You think JG's not going to hold him accountable?
No, I'm talking about you with your Isaiah Simmons takes. Let's just be accountable, Bo Brown.
You just completely you have so many fucking qualifiers for your what's a bust. It's like if you don't win a Super Bowl, if you're not hoisting a Lombardi, you're a bust.
Somebody in the chat said if Simmons is a bust, then Kyler Murray's a bust as well. Anthony said that in the chat.
Exactly.
Anthony, I'm going to respectfully disagree, my guy.
Yeah, of course. Are you shocked by that, Anthony? This guy is disagreeing with anybody that says otherwise.
Kyler Murray, the offensive rookie of the year, went to the playoffs, 2 Pro Bowls. Isaiah Simmons hasn't done that.
He went to the playoffs.
Stop. I don't remember him. That's fine. Talk about Colt McCoy. Say something about Colt McCoy. God, just one banger after another on this show.
Yeah. So once we fired up the press conference today, I was curious. I hadn't heard anything as far as a definitive QB1 week 1 against the Washington Commanders. Commanders named their QB1. It was Sam Howell. And so I asked JG, what did you want to see from Colt McCoy this preseason training camp, and have you tabbed him the guy? This is his answer.
Yeah, when we need to name the starters, we'll name the starters, but he's doing a good job. I thought he operated well. I think that he's getting more and more comfortable with what we're asking him to do. He's obviously played a lot of football, but I like where his game's trending.
He likes where his game's trending. Now I'm curious, after I asked that question, he says, we're going to name starters. I'm like, if I asked JG, hey, is Budda Baker your top safety, if he would even commit to that? And I don't know if he would.
That's such a scumbag question, though. I hope nobody asked that. I know you wouldn't ask that. But
no, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't see this as, oh, man, JG's not committing to Colt McCoy as QB1 just yet. Uh-oh, is the door open for Clayton Tune? Stay tuned.
Today? No.
Well, no, what do you gather from what he said?
I think that Colt McCoy is the starter, and I think it's in part because Clayton Tune was given a chance to seize the job. He hasn't. Free matter for the blind. I hope Clayton Tune plays this weekend. I hope he plays well, but I'm still very much in the camp, not only with my eyes, but what I've heard behind the scenes of Clayton Tune could have taken this job from Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy was idle. He's been idle this preseason, this training camp. Here I am what I am. I'm 37. I'm not getting better or worse. This is me right here. And I'm barely going to participate. You can either help yourself or you can be a 5th round.
What do you mean barely participate? Because I think that's a polarizing thing to say about
barely participate in games. Barely participate. What do you have? Three possessions, 4 possessions?
But he doesn't get to say how much he plays.
You think they told him you're not going to play more than 1 possession?
JG said as far he's maintained guys have a certain amount of snaps that they want to play.
Yeah.
And then once they hit that threshold, they're done. And of course you've got a 14-year veteran in Colt McCoy, and you got a 5th rounder out of Houston, a non-power 5 school.
Backwards though, because before the preseason started, I'm like, I don't think they're going to play Colt McCoy at all. And you told me, no, he has to play. He's got to learn the offense. What I saw from him in 3 or 4 possessions, no points scored, barely crossing midfield, 4.5 yards per completion. I could have guessed all those things before I watched Colt McCoy out there. Everybody knew that was the end product. So back to my original point, it's had Clayton Tune gone out there and he hits Greg Dortch in the flat and he has multiple touchdown passes per game. He's having the kind of preseason our guy DTR.
Do we still have that? Do we have that graphic, the side by side of those two?
I posted it on my Twitter earlier today. Okay. I don't think we have it still, but
it's fine.
Clayton Tune's, I think, been solid this preseason.
He's been okay.
Solid. Yeah, he has not been good enough to overcome their hesitation to play a 5th rounder, and you broke it down very nicely on our audio only podcast, which dropped this morning. Check that out if you haven't. That it would be out of the ordinary against history for a 5th rounder to start week 1 outside of some huge injury like a Dak Prescott, Tony Romo situation, right?
Yeah.
That it just doesn't happen. But I have heard that they were open to it. They thought Clayton looked good enough. Clayton wants to run with this job. Shit, we'll make it work. He didn't seize it enough. I don't think he can do anything this weekend to take hold of it. And I'm very much of the mindset, I like Clayton Tune. I'm not Mr. Clayton Tune. I'm Mr. I don't want to see Colt McCoy for 5-6 weeks. I'm not into that.
Right. I don't think any football fan is hey, I want to see, the old wily veteran with his bag of tricks go in there and just kind of hold his head in the offense above water. That's not that's not why you tune in to watch the game every week. Like you want to see somebody that can play the position and show off a big arm and get the ball in the playmaker's hands and make flashy plays and splash plays and have explosives. And you don't have a lot of upside as far as Colt McCoy, but what you do have his experience operationally. Sure. He's going to give you your best shot. Yeah, let's take a look at the side by side as far as what they've done this preseason, and it's tough. I mean, 12 passes from Colt McCoy. 9 for 12, 45 yards, 4.5 yards per completion. It's just that's not going to make anybody go wide eyed and almost fall out of a chair. And then you look at Clayton Tune, 53 completion percentage, 200 yards. He's got 10.7 yards per completion, way higher than Colt. But also, I think it was a lot more open of an offense that Colt McCoy is playing. And then the one touchdown to what your point you've maintained is it should be probably 3, right? 3 of those 4 scores.
And look, I mean, 3 touchdowns, 5 scores because they did score on the one drive.
But we haven't seen Clayton Tune play at a very high level. Even the scoring drives he's had, he's been aided by some laundry on the field and some flags. He's missed some throws, and you have to be way more efficient than he's been. And if he came out and he was going 9 for 13 and he was hitting guys in stride and he was lighting it up, I think you have a different conversation. It just hasn't happened. He's a 5th round guy. And as I said on the audio only, in the last 30 plus years, 4 rookie quarterbacks drafted outside of the top 100 have made starts in the season opener. Just 4.
We're going to get, I agree with that.
And most of, to your point, I mean, as far as Dak found his way only because of injury, because Tony Romo's back, he couldn't get in there. And Kyle Orton got in there because Rex Grossman. And then I think it was Chris Weinke, who wasn't really, he was 97 years old. He was a little bit older than your average, late round, day 3 pick. And then Steve Berline for the Raiders in the late 80s. I mean, it's just, there's very little of a precedent for it. And it only happened. I mean, Clayton Tune was the 9th quarterback off the board, and there are guys ahead of him right now in the preseason that are struggling. And it's such a tough position to play. And it's more than just the physical traits, the arm strength, and the escapability.
We're going to get one of 2 things. And I think if people want to see Clayton Tune, but they also want Kyler Murray to come back, you're going to get what you want regardless. We're either going to get Colt McCoy starting 2 to 3 games, right? Maybe 4, but hopefully not. And then Kyler Murray comes back. Or Kyler Murray doesn't come off a PUP, God help us, in about 9 days. And then Colt McCoy is the starter for 6 weeks, to which I think nobody in this chat, we've got 173 people, think that's going to happen. We're going to see Clayton Tune at some point during those 6+ weeks while we await Kyler Murray's return. And that's okay. So again, I don't anticipate, if things go south with Kyler's recovery, which we haven't heard is the case, but we'll just play hypothetical.
Yeah.
And we're projecting Colt McCoy for 17 weeks. That's not going to happen. They're going to see if Colt McCoy goes out there and he struggles, or he gets hurt, or he looks old, they will put Clayton Tune in games. That's going to, and that will be 6+ weeks from now. We'll have all this additional time in practice, and he'll be with the starters, and he'll look good, and they'll be able to evaluate him. So it's not something I'm going to get hung up about. What I am frustrated by, and we've been saying this more than any other show, anybody else out there, is why did they opt to go even have this presented as an option? And I want to talk about what the other options were and are in the NFL in comparison, and do they stack up better? Do other teams' backups, Bo Brock, stack up better than Colt McCoy right now in Arizona? You'd be surprised once we show you this list, but you're going to be surprised by all the deals right now from our friends at Circle K. We're so excited to partner with Circle K. Check out your local Circle K. Best coffee, beer, snack selection, premium gas, not a premium price. I ran in the other day. I just filled up. It was uber cheap. And then I went inside, loaded up on my snacks, hanging out with my kids. Their specific Circle K snacks that are non-name brand are even better, and they're cheaper, and they're great. Grab them now. Also grab yourself a buy one, get one free Polar Pop. Text PHNX to 31310. That's PHNX to 31310. Join the SMS subscriber club, and check out Circle K wherever you can at circlek.com/store-locator, Bo.
Yeah, and keep that promo code handy when you go to shadyrays.com as well. Save yourself some money at shadyrays.com. Premium polarized sunglasses for not a premium price. You can save even more money when you use that code PHNX. Go check out all the unbelievable things going on at shadyrays.com. They look like a much more expensive pair of sunglasses for a really, really affordable price, especially when you're saving when you buy 2 or more pairs with that promo code PHNX. You get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars or more, not just by Johnny, not by myself and producer Damon, but 250,000 people. Go to shadyrays.com. Use that promo code PHNX. Save yourself some scratch. We'll get some cool shades.
Okay. So tease it in the last segment. Colt McCoy, not ideal, right? It's the reality, the deck that we were given as Cardinal fans. But could there have been another ace in the hole earlier this offseason when the Cardinals had some options and they passed? So I want to pose a couple scenarios to my co-host, Bo Brack. Now, he has not seen this, but producer Damon Extraordinaire put together a list with myself on current backups and potentially backup of backups. And I want Bo Brack to answer Colt or backup. Cue it up right now. Let's see the first slide. And it starts with a couple dicey quarterback options out in Cleveland. Joshua Dobbs, DTR. Bo Brack, would you rather have Colt McCoy or Joshua Dobbs and or DTR?
I mean, DTR, he's got to be the darling of the preseason, right? I mean, everybody's going crazy about him. Anytime he takes the field, it seems like he's making things happen. Joshua Dobbs is a tough guy, under 60% passing, through 2 touchdowns, through 2 picks, couldn't stop the bleeding for the Tennessee Titans. As much as I like what I've seen from DTR, I think I'm passing on both of these guys in favor of Colt McCoy.
Wow, how dare you? I disagree with both of those, but we continue on. Gardner Minshew, connected to JG, spent time in Philadelphia with him last year, has had a really nice preseason. Sounds like it's out of his control, though. Anthony Richardson, by default, is the starter. Bo, would you rather have Colt McCoy or Gardner Minshew?
I'd probably take Gardner Minshew, maybe a little bit younger version of Colt McCoy. Throw it a little bit, can move a little bit. I would err on the side of youth there, and a guy that's been around the block already.
Malik Willis was supposedly on the trading block or to potentially be cut by Tennessee after they used, a second or third round pick on him last year. He's had a really nice preseason. He's running for a bunch of yards. He's throwing tutties. Colt McCoy or Malik Willis to start the season, Bo?
Yeah, I'm out on Malik Willis. I don't think he can be a quarterback at the NFL level.
Wow, that was a quick one. Blaine Gabbert lit up the Cardinals for what seemed like 100 touchdowns and very competent. We know what Blaine can do in Arizona. Would you rather have Blaine Gabbert out of Kansas City or Colt McCoy?
Makes me sick, but I'll say the Gab man, Blaine Gabbert.
I agree with that. I also agree with this. Jacoby Brissett. Supposedly, people are saying he declined the Cardinals in the offseason. I think that he declined the Cardinals offer, Bo. He didn't want to come here for less money.
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, though, I think both parties would love to have a mulligan, as I'm seeing in the chat right now. Sam Howell just got sacked for a loss in a preseason game. Love seeing that. Jacoby Brissett out in Washington. He's a backup. You could use him here. Would you take him or Colt McCoy?
I love the impromptu play-by-play. I'll take Jacoby. The same thing with Gabbert, Minshew. I think they're probably just younger versions of Colt McCoy, quintessential backup guys. They can hold it down for a couple weeks. I think they're a little bit more durable.
Sam Darnold is not durable, but he looks like he's QB2 in San Francisco. Sam Darnold or Colt McCoy?
This is a really, really tough one. He can't stay healthy in his own right.
He's fun, though.
He's a little chaotic. I'm going to pass on Darnold, but I think he's in probably the best situation he's been in his career.
And then lastly, Drew Lock for this slide in the NFC West, he's been fine as a throw-in for Russell Wilson. He's backing up Geno Smith. Would you rather have Drew Lock or Colt McCoy?
Colt McCoy.
All right. So it looks, listen, I would take everybody on this list besides Drew Lock over Colt McCoy. I think Josh.
Why would you take Malik Willis? What has he shown you? He got benched for they took Josh Dobbs off the street and they benched Malik Willis.
How dare you? I don't have to defend myself. Next slide, please. Producer Damon. Next up, and we're beginning in the NFC, Andy Dalton, who put up like 400 yards against Vance Joseph last year in a loss. Would you rather have Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, or Colt McCoy?
Give me Colt McCoy.
Stop
What?
it. Over Andy Dalton?
We've watched Andy Dalton suck just hind boob for the last 2 seasons against the Arizona Cardinals. He got worked on Thursday Night Football for the Saints, and then wearing a Bears uniform, he got worked by him the previous season, and he was wearing a Cowboys uniform. Andy Dalton sucks. No, pass.
Taylor Heineke is, I think, somebody you and I both liked as a backup to Kyler Murray. They didn't pursue him. He's backing up Desmond Ridder in Atlanta. You down for that?
Yeah, I'd take Taylor Heineke.
As would I. Marcus Mariota, Philadelphia, quit on his teammates last year, but still very capable. Mariota or Colt McCoy, Bo?
I mean, he quit on his teammates. I don't want that guy.
Okay, that's fine. Aiden O'Connell, though,
yeah,
looks like a gem.
Right.
He's having the kind of preseason that I think we were hoping Clayton Tune would have.
Sure.
And he's going to back up Jimmy G in Las Vegas. Would you rather have Aiden O'Connell or Colt McCoy?
Same. I mean, if Clayton Tune's not going to beat out Colt McCoy, I'm not going to take somebody in the same draft class. I think he'd get just as equal of an opportunity not to. I mean, Colt's the guy. He's not going to dethrone him.
That's fine. Tyler Huntley, Baltimore Ravens, who, I mean, he's played a lot of games. He has looked pretty average in most of them. Over Colt McCoy. Okay.
Yeah.
Zappy Doo, Bailey Zappy, New England. If he's good enough for Bill Belichick, is he good enough for Bo Brock over Colt McCoy?
Man, Bailey Zappy. You know what? I'd probably take Zappy.
He's got a live arm. I would take Zappy as well. I would also take Mike White. Who had a nice
Miguel Blanco. Sign me up. Let's go, Mike White.
Now that was like your fastest response. You would probably get him for like a 7th round pick at this point. And then lastly,
I thought he was the best quarterback for the Jets last year. Now that's like obviously grading on a curve, but and then sign me up for Jameis Winston. Absolutely.
So thank you, producer Damon, for putting that together. I think I am probably 80% all of those guys over Colt McCoy. You're probably closer to like 60%, would you say?
Sure.
60%. Look, I pissed him off. He's not happy about doing that. The dog is boy.
No, it's fine. Remember the list where they had Colt McCoy as like the 31st ranked backup? And it's just like, that's what this guy's won football games in the NFL the last 2 seasons. I mean, some of these guys haven't. Some of the guys they had like Malik Willis ahead of him, and that's just downright wrong.
I think Colt McCoy is the perfect backup for 1 game or like a half if your quarterback gets hurt. He can play a half.
That's what you want from your backup quarterback.
But Colt McCoy, for what the Cardinals are experiencing with a quarterback who's got a torn up knee trying to come back, and people are projecting 2, 4, 6 weeks, is not the right guy for that. He's not. It's Jameis or Mike White or Gardner Minshew is the right person for that. So, Commanders stalled on the 6th, did not score a touchdown. Love that. I mean, this is Sam Howell beating Colt McCoy. Would you rather have Sam Howell or Colt McCoy? That's a good question. We're going to ask all of you who's getting traded, Kelvin Beachum or Josh Jones, because apparently it's happening. One of those two, according to the national media, is going to be dealt. Cardinals are going to have so many picks it'll be illegal. And speaking of illegal, Illegal Pete's is lit because it's patio beer season, folks. I finally stepped outside today, Bo Brock. It was not 1,000 degrees and my skin melting. Nice breeze outside. Legal Pete's patio beers, football season. What can be better? Legal Pete's best margs in Arizona, strongest margs. So, drink responsibly. But how about this? Taco bowls, tacos, salads, burritos, nachos. I'm a nacho guy, right? And while I love my nachos here in Arizona, Legal Pete's, they're tough to beat, as is their custom cocktails, their beers, piping hot queso. Legal Pete's is your go-to spot this football season. Stop by. I know I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. This is not a 15-minute happy hour. How about 3 to 8 p.m. every flipping day at all 12 locations? 5 hours of a happy hour. Sign me up. It should be illegal. It's not. Legal Pete's, the go-to spot for burrito baddies and a beer. 28 years.
I came into the office today and we had an unbelievable Legal Pete's spread, little taco bar. Put myself together a couple of carne tacos, cheese, corn, guacamole, queso. Kramer. I mean, it was unbelievable. You missed out on it, Johnny. And
Did you save me any?
no, I didn't. But,
Okay, that sounds about right.
Illegal Pete's, of course, is saving some for everybody out there. Get in there today. Get in this afternoon, this evening. Take advantage of Margarita Monday. Also take advantage of becoming a diehard today. Go to gophnx.com. Get in on all the great stuff that we have set up for you to join our squad. Get all the insight. Get all the content you want. Yeah, you see the Greg Dortch, the new T-shirt release. You could make that your free T-shirt for the year. Or you can get these hats that we're wearing, the Bird Gang T-shirt that Johnny has on today. You can choose out of the PHNX locker anything you want for your yearly gift. Becoming a diehard today, get that access to the member Discord, and you're not gonna regret it. You're gonna have a fun time, especially during the football season. We're gonna be talking what's going on at practice, the ins and outs, what we're looking as far as depth charts, and of course, what we're looking at as far as the 2024 NFL Draft. Become a Discord member today and get access to all our great events. Go PHNX.com and of course PHNXLocker.com. Cardinals punting battle came to an end today, Johnny. Matt Hawk was sent packing.
Yeah. Bye. See ya. I'm going to go with the guy who averaged 53.5 yards per punt. Was one of the lone bright spots.
Can we look at do we have our special teams depth chart on here? I don't think we do, but we had Cooney winning that one outright on our depth chart on Friday.
Of course we did.
I chalk it up as 1-1.
Yeah, that's, sounds legit. So punters solidified now. Feel good about that. Prater looked good Saturday. We haven't
54, banged home a 54-yarder.
Special teams, man, could be legit. Of course, we got our guy Greg Dortch returning punts and kicks. We're hoping to talk to Greg later this week about the screw job at the goal line, which was egregious, and he should get a big apology from the NFL because he was definitely in. Quickly, Bo, new COO for the Arizona Cardinals, coming over from Miami. This is from Rap Sheet, and then the team released a statement. Jeremy Walls, COO, running the team's business operations. He's a businessman. He previously was with the Dolphins as chief revenue officer. And then our boy Howard Balzer, PHNX Cardinals beat reporter, tweeted out that he was there when they renovated their team facility, $135 million. It is a well-known fact that the Tempe facility was graded poorly by the players during the NFLPA grades last spring. Could this be a step in the right direction to revitalizing that place, renovating it?
Yeah, I think with the Dolphins, he held the title of chief revenue officer. So he comes over here, he's operating officer, COO, and he has experience in the Valley. I reached out to a couple buddies and said he started with the Suns and the Diamondbacks, started as an intern for Alvin Adams in the Phoenix Suns organization. So he's got ties to the Valley. Young guy. That practice facility that you mentioned, it features 3 practice fields, 1 indoor field, house building totaling 129,000 plus square feet, 60 administrative offices, 209 televisions, 400 TV monitors, 30-foot slide. They literally have a slide instead of stairs. If you want to get from the top to the bottom, you can ride a slide down like your Bernie Brewer after Christian Yelich goes yard. 48-foot long lap pool, 2 hydrotherapy pools, indoor sauna, indoor steam room, cryotherapy rooms, and lots more. So he had his hand in that. So I think there's a lot of, good things, and it takes away from the day-to-day as far as what, you would have put in the lap of your owner.
Yeah. I mean, Cardinals need to remodel their Tempe facility. I don't know if they're going to take a wrecking ball to it and make it whatever you just described in Miami. It doesn't seem likely, but I mean, like when players have an issue coming to the Arizona Cardinals because they're concerned about like how their family is going to be treated and the facilities that they're going to be put in, and the fact that they don't have one of like 2 teams, they don't have a daycare. Like that's where you have to start. You have to very much like this team building mantra for Monty Ossenford, which I know does not include trading for running backs. You have to take that mentality with revitalizing Tempe's office, right? It's like, what are people doing? Like, what's the simplistic check in the boxes? We're not going to go 0 to 100 and make it look like Minnesota's overnight, which has the number 1 NFLPA grade. But can we be respectable? And I think the best part about this, and you know what I'm going to say, that I love this hire, is he does not come from this organization internally. I don't want to see internal hires and internal promotions. I don't want to enable people. I'm sure there are good people. We know there are good people within that franchise that maybe have been stalled in their development for whatever reason. But this franchise, to know how to win on and off the field, has to go and get people from other organizations to show them how to do it, because they don't know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
They clearly don't know. Players told them, this is wrong, this is inadequate, we need better if we're going to compete here. Same thing like Austin Ford's doing with the players. Guys like this gentleman can come in and say, okay, this is what we did in Miami, and the players really responded to it. I think the Dolphins had a really high NFLPA grade for a reason on how they treated players and their families. So
yeah, I mean the nightmare of aloof ownership in front office is like those days are done, right? I mean, they had an indoor practice facility that sat dormant for 5 years because they didn't like the turf. It just sat there, and they finally revamped it. And JG can say, you know, they were, that was in the works before him and Monty, but they got it going and made sure that it was operational, and they're practicing that every day. They're in that bubble every day and it's got the cutting edge turf. It's got the cutting edge lights. I mean, and yeah, it's just, they're just scratching the surface, but it's like it was like a high school that was under like renovations for far too long. And they're an NFL franchise. Like there's no more like this, the scaffolding's going to come down, and they're going to start to be up and keep up with the Joneses as far as what you need to have to keep NFL players happy. And I know that it's ridiculous to the common guy like you and myself and everybody in the chat, like, because they're paid millionaires, but that's what you have to do to stay competitive.
I just, there's nothing worse for a fan base to hear than you don't treat your players right. Yeah. Like, how can you get excited? You want to be able to rep these colors, this bird, and it's just like, well, but the players don't want to play here because you make them pay for their food, and they don't feel safe in your weight room. The accommodations aren't great. I'm sure people have options. I hope all 107 of you in the chat, hit that like button, by the way, have options with where you're employed and your employer. And you want to go where you're treated respectfully and where people have the best health plans, retirement plans, 401ks, pensions, facilities for you to be able to do your best work. And what we got from the NFLPA was you can't do good work here because it's inadequate.
Well, I just don't want to hear about it, right? Like I don't care about their pensions, their 401ks, or their facility. Like the less we hear about it, the better. Like just know that it's up to stuff, because the only time, like I couldn't tell you who's in the top 10 as far as top facilities, but you sure as shit heard about the teams that were at the bottom, right? Including the Arizona Cardinals. Like
and another team that got a new owner in Washington.
Yeah, it's just like an offensive line. Like if you're talking about it a lot, it's a bad thing. And like the same thing goes for your facilities. Keep it up. Keep it functional, keep it up, where it needs to be to keep your players happy. And you're not going to be, the talk of the town for the wrong reasons and the talk of the NFL.
The talk of the Twitter streets right now is, as it relates to the Cardinals, is their tackle depth, Bo Brack. Kelvin Beachum, Josh Jones have, I think, been showcased these first two preseason games. Kelvin Beachum was first to start and replace DJ Humphries. Then it was Josh Jones in the second game. Teams like Buffalo have already kind of made it clear through their fan base, through their beat reporters, like they need a tackle or multiple. And then I can't find it for the life of me. Somebody tagged us in, a prominent NFL reporter coming out and basically saying that they'd be surprised if Josh Jones was on the Arizona Cardinals. He's oh, here it is. Mike Renner. See, you got this taken care of, Bo Brack.
No, that's our guy, Damon. All over this one. Mike Renner saying, I have no inside info here. This is a good start, but I have to think Cardinals offensive tackle Josh Jones is going to be elsewhere week 1. Last year, it was rookie deal, not slated to start. He's a minimum starting caliber offensive tackle who's looked great at both right and left tackle this preseason. I mean, you've got a vet as far as DJ Humphries holding down the left side, who dealt with a back injury. I just don't know. Like I've maintained, tackles are like starting pitching in baseball. You just don't give it up just because you have like a surplus, because it's inevitable as far as, how tough this game is and how physical it is. The idea that your offensive line is going to stay intact, especially at the tackle position with all those really athletic edge rushers coming at you for all different angles is a bit naive. And I just think, ideally, the Arizona Cardinals hold on to Josh Jones and work out a way for him to continue his Cardinals career beyond 2023. But if he's a guy that presents value and you can get something in return for a guy that's going to exit via free agency next offseason, then sure. But, I think that he's a guy that could play, some solid downs for the Cardinals as early as this season.
I think it'd be foolish to assume DJ Humphries can make it 17 weeks. Just in this, and the fact that they've moved DJ Humphries all of his guaranteed money to this year, and you're kind of suggesting that this is going to be his last year. I mean, is it wrong to think you might have an heir apparent in-house? I would think, for me as a GM, a 4th or a 5th for Josh Jones or a 6th or a 7th for Kelvin Beachum, that's an easy decision.
Yeah.
Give me the guy who's got a chance to be at least a placeholder. Like, think about this. What if they have the 2nd pick and they have the 15th pick, right? And they somehow, through their own will, they win, 7 games. They're picking 15th. They're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. and they let Josh Jones go. And they're thinking to themselves, well, now we have to sign a tackle, or we have to have Kelvin Beachum be our tackle, which we don't want to do in 2024. We have to bring DJ Humphries back. I think that you could look at Josh Jones in relation to next offseason, how you looked at Kelvin Beachum for this offseason. It's just like, this is security for us. And I know he's a free agent to be, but you're going to be able to, other teams are going to value Josh Jones. They're already valuing him right now. I'm sure they've gotten calls on him. He is I think, an above average pass protecting tackle, which is nothing to sneeze at. Does anybody know his grade last year in PFF at tackle last year? Does anybody know what he graded out
in the
as?
70s, wasn't it? I mean, it was
75,
yeah,
76. Do the Cardinals, with their history of offensive linemen, should they be in a position to let go of a guy in his mid-20s that's producing that, albeit in limited snaps? The offensive line has been, in my opinion, the best part of the preseason thus far. Yelda Froholt and Will Hernandez have been borderline dominant. They have the highest 2 PFF grades through 2 weeks. Froholt in particular looks like a freaking WWE wrestler out there. It's fantastic. And then Josh Jones, 53 snaps against the Kansas City Chiefs, 77 rating. And it's like, let's just get rid of him.
With a 90 in pass pro.
Right. Like, you just need to keep him and you figure it out. And then Kelvin Beachum, respectfully, it's like, he's older, right? Why would you bank on, well, let's just have Kelvin Beachum as insurance? First of all, you signed him as insurance so you could draft Paris Johnson, and you succeeded. So that was your coverage. If somebody's going to give you anything and Kelvin will go to a Buffalo and have a chance to play for a contender, you take that. You take a 6th-round pick from Buffalo and say, thank you so much. Good luck, Kelvin. Thanks for all you've done for this organization. And then Josh Jones immediately becomes a viable swing tackle for a team that could desperately use him.
Yeah. I mean, that's ideal, but at the same time, I'm skeptical you could get, something of value for a guy in Kelvin Beachum that you picked up his contract, which I think was a savvy move by Monty. And to your point, was probably because you got to have, something in place before you start to really try to navigate especially the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
Paris Johnson was not exactly, something that was under the radar as far as the NFL draft goes. We saw how quickly tackles ran off the board, and he's by far now, I think at this point, the top tackle as far as the draft goes, and it was right to kind of go about it that way. But I just don't think, if Buffalo's staring down, a trade and they're saying, hey, who's available as far as your tackles, they're going to try to get Jones. And I think they would much rather spend for Jones than Beachum.
You think so? Because Kelvin's the one who's been starting all these games. I mean, you're projecting.
They watch the tape. They can just look at his profile and see he's 26. He's a guy.
Their roster is old though. Like, somebody was asking me today, like, what could you get from Buffalo? There's nothing in Buffalo that would appease.
You can't look. I mean, you can't sell him as a 30-plus-year-old tackle and say
as a rental for a year to help you try to win a Super Bowl.
Because you're trying. He's the 26-year-old guy, and I know that Beach was actually an Iron Man for the Cardinals that last year. He was the only offensive lineman to play all 17. But you're going to err on the side of a youth, and I just think that teams are viewing Josh Jones as more of a commodity and an asset than Beachum.
Well, I like this comment from John. I hope they don't let Josh Jones go. Love Beach, but he's not a road grader, and he's long in the tooth. And again, I think Beach should be the exception to what they're doing with Jones should be the exception to what they're doing with a lot of these ex-Steve Keim draft picks. Is like, you're not going to commit to guys like Isaiah Simmons and Rondale Moore today, but Beachum plays that position in which it's so valuable. We remember what happened once upon a time where this franchise thought Bobby Massey was expendable. And then he goes to Chicago and has a really nice career in Chicago. And they would have, and he was a 4th-round pick, and they would have loved Bobby Massey to come back. Jones, to me, like every time he's put out a tackle, Bo, like he looks good.
Wasn't Bobby Massey like probably one of Steve Kemp's best offensive line selections in it? Or was he a Graves guy?
Was Graves last year in 2012.
Can't even get the credit for that.
No, Steve he'll go on every podcast if Josh Jones has a good year and say, yeah, I knew with Josh Jones he'd be a star.
He said he had him as a 1st-round grade. You got him in 72nd overall.
He was being mocked.
Look, Jones still has to be more disciplined. He's one of the more heavily penalized guys. He was one of those guys that was the pre-snap stuff. Got to be better. So, but look, Arizona Cardinals, let's keep in mind the entire theme of this conversation is where they are right now is at the beginning of a rebuild. So we're talking about, Jonathan Taylor, and no, I want to hold on to Josh Jones, who's not even under contract next year. If you can get assets and you can in future draft capital, I think that you look at that, you take some time and evaluate that.
They have 11 picks, and that's with a comp pick for Zach Allen. Speaking of Zach Allen, I was supporting in Zach Allen, Byron Murphy leaving. I don't think I could say the same for letting Josh Jones go for basically nothing. Like, yeah, if he's gone, I want at least a 4th-round pick for Josh Jones, either as a comp pick or a trade from another team.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Okay,
Bo doesn't seem convinced.
It's just like it's an inexact thing. Like you come in and you're like, well, how come this guy hasn't been playing the last 3 years consistently anyway? Like, what are we doing here? And you see the malpractice, and it's like that falls into your lap. It's like Monty Ossenfort's trying to figure out, how he can maximize Jones. And if it's him sticking around and signing an extension, then it's that. If it's, they don't envision him sticking around and being a tackle, a swing guy or a starting tackle, then you let him go. And if you're going to let him go, why would you just let him go for nothing? And if you can, trying to figure out like, where does he fall? If he doesn't constitute a comp pick, then it's nothing.
I'm going to ask how we can maximize all of you right now. Like this video, subscribe to PHNX Cardinals, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to tell you why. Yes, we're here on YouTube. We appreciate the subscription here on our YouTube page, but also we drop exclusive audio-only podcasts, talking deets we don't even cover on the show. We've got an audio-only podcast that dropped this morning. We're going to do one as many times during the season, dropping them on Monday morning. So do not miss out on that. We want to say a big thank you to our new co-host, Britton Golden, did a phenomenal job on the pre- and post-game show Saturday with myself. Saul Bookman was in the house. Bo Brack on the post-game show live from State Farm Stadium. I mean, the vibes were elite at the PHNX headquarters. I know State Farm Stadium, it was a tough scene against Mahomes and company, but I want to remind everybody, your definitive pre- and post-game show when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals is right here with PHNX Sports and PHNX Cardinals. We will have a pre- and post-game show this Saturday, early morning, Bo Brack.
Kegs and eggs on Saturday morning.
You make me breakfast in studio, like Fotu style?
Yeah, let's go. I'll make some waffles. You, D-Dog, we'll be hanging out, watching some football, 10 a.m., watching who knows who's going to play. I honestly don't, I can't rule out the starters playing comes Saturday, you would assume, right? But with the new preseason format, like it's kind of different coaches have different philosophies.
Colt should be forced to play all 4 quarters. That's my opinion. We're back tomorrow on a Tuesday, travel day for the Cardinals. Your bros are staying here in Phoenix. In the meantime, like and subscribe.
Also, just a note, programming note, Wednesday, we are going to be live, just after noon, right? We're going to be a little early on Wednesday, the first day that they're going to be gearing up. We want rapid reaction after practice in Minnesota, hoping to get some sights and some sounds there. And Johnny and I will be a little bit earlier that day, so make sure you join us a little earlier in the afternoon on PHNX Cardinals.
Hang out with us on your lunch break. In the meantime, I'm Johnny Venerable. He's Bo Brack. Running backs need love too. We'll see you tomorrow.